Imagine waking up one morning and hearing the words nobody ever wants to hear. World War III has begun. Not a hypothetical, not a headline meant to spark fear, an actual global conflict involving the world's strongest militaries. It's the question millions quietly ask but never say out loud. Could the United States actually survive WW3? And what would survival even look like for a modern nation built on technology, alliances, and global influence? Today, we're going deep: military strength, economic pressure, geography, nuclear strategy, and yes, what survival would realistically mean for everyday Americans. Let's begin. For decades, the US has been positioned as the superpower, the country with unmatched military dominance. But today's world is very different. Countries like China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran aren't just rivals, they're forming closer strategic bonds. What used to be a distant topic discussed only in military classrooms is now something ordinary people talk about on social media, podcasts, and dinner tables, and Americans know it. There's a feeling of uncertainty in the air, a question hanging like a storm cloud. If WW3 erupted today, are we as prepared as we think? Let's get one fact straight. The United States military is still the most powerful in the world by a massive margin. But the question isn't who has the strongest military. The real question is, would America's military strength matter in a global conflict where cyber attacks, space warfare, and nuclear deterrence could define the entire battle? Nuclear triad, land, air, sea, ensures America can respond even after a massive strike. 11 aircraft carriers, the next closest country has 2. Advanced missile defense systems that, while not perfect, offer a significant protective layer. Global military bases that make the U.S. the only nation capable of fighting a war on multiple fronts. In WW3, brute force isn't enough. Survival would depend on information warfare, cyber resilience, communication systems, and strategic alliances. And those areas? They're not invincible. Geography factor America's hidden shield. This is where the U.S. has a massive natural advantage and where survival becomes more plausible. The country is protected by the Atlantic Ocean, a 5,000+ km barrier to Europe. The Pacific Ocean, 8,000+ km barrier to Asia. Friendly neighbors, Canada and Mexico. No major rival is close enough for a land invasion. Any attack would require significant long-range capability. The homeland remains difficult to breach compared to Europe or Asia. It's the same geographical advantage that protected the U.S. in World War I and II, and it still matters today. And those are the modern tools of WW3. Let's talk about the darkest part of this topic, without exaggeration and without fear-mongering. If WW3 becomes a nuclear war, nobody wins. But could America survive compared to other nations? Survival depends on 3 things: CBM's land-based missiles, SLBM's submarine-launched missiles, strategic bombers. This triad ensures the U.S. can retaliate even if its cities are hit first. That deterrence alone makes a nuclear-first strike against America extremely unlikely. The U.S. is large, decentralized, and has massive rural regions. Even if major cities were targeted, life would continue in rural states. Agriculture would survive. Military command centers would still operate. No missile defense system is perfect. But the U.S. has GMD, Aegis, THAAD, Patriot systems. They can intercept some ballistic threats, but not all. In a nuclear WW3 scenario, the goal isn't perfection. The goal is minimizing destruction and ensuring the country doesn't collapse. If there's one area where the U.S. is vulnerable, it's this. A massive cyber attack could shut down the power grid, paralyze hospitals, freeze banks, disable GPS, stop transportation, crash communication networks. Imagine millions of Americans suddenly in the dark, no internet, no banking, no fuel stations. This scenario doesn't require bombs or missiles, just a keyboard. And here's the twist. WW3 might begin not with explosions, but with silence and nationwide blackout. The American economy is massive, but it's also deeply connected to global supply chains. If WW3 disrupts international trade, prices would skyrocket. Food shortages could begin in weeks. Pharmaceutical shortages would hit quickly. Fuel distribution would slow. The dollar would face global turbulence. But the U.S. also produces oil, food, energy, technology, military, hardware. Many countries don't have this luxury. So while America would suffer, it wouldn't collapse. In fact, its self-sufficiency gives it one of the highest survival chances among developed nations. The role of allies: America doesn't fight alone. One thing the US has that rivals don't. Allies, lots of them. NATO alone includes, France, Germany, Canada, 20 plus more countries. Japan, South Korea, Australia, and others support US defense strategies. In WW3, this alliance system becomes America's backbone, multiplying its global reach. Russia and China have alliances too, but not at this scale, and not with the same technological capability. What about survival for ordinary Americans? This is where the question becomes personal. Forget governments and militaries. What would WW3 mean for the average American? Short answer: survival depends on preparation, location, and community. America is huge. Experiences would differ state to state. Urban areas: New York, LA, Chicago. Higher risk during attacks. Immediate supply chain disruptions. Faster panic and civil unrest. More food security. More distance from strategic targets. Better long-term survival odds. Strong infrastructure. Large energy production. Ports that become strategic assets. The US isn't one experience, it's 50. And in WW3, these differences would matter more than ever. If World War III became a reality, the first few hours would decide everything. And the US government already has a playbook. There are pre-designated underground bunkers, command centers, and communication lines built specifically to keep the government functioning even during nuclear war. Places like Cheyenne Mountain, Peters Mountain, Mount Weather Emergency Operations Center. These locations ensure the president, military leadership, intelligence agencies, strategic decision makers can keep operating even under attack. Expect immediate deployment across major cities, controlling panic, protecting infrastructure, guarding supply chains, assisting hospitals, enforcing curfews if needed. Within minutes, TVs, phones, and radios would carry nationwide instructions. Americans would be told where to shelter, what areas to avoid, how to preserve resources, what the government is doing next. It would be chaotic, but not leaderless. This is the part most analysts avoid discussing, but it's the part regular people worry about the most. Within weeks, Americans would see shortages in SIA reserve, fuel, medicine, electronics, imported foods, consumer goods. Because the U.S. economy is so globalized, even a small disruption creates massive ripple effects, something the country hasn't seen since WW2. You could see limited gas purchases, controlled food distribution, priority lanes for emergency workers, restricted interstate travel. Americans would be watching the news non-stop, scrolling social media in fear, worried about family safety, unsure what tomorrow looks like. And yes, panic would happen in certain areas, but historically, Americans also come together in crisis, from 9/11 to hurricanes to wildfires. That resilience is a major survival advantage. Technology won't just shape WW3, it will decide it. Satellites control, GPS, banking, military targeting, internet, weather monitoring, communication. If satellites are destroyed or jammed, America loses its eyes and ears. That's why the U.S. created Space Force, real military branch, to defend American assets in orbit. Undersea cables. Most of the world's internet runs through fiber optic cables lying at the bottom of the ocean. In WW3, those cables become prime targets. Cutting them isolates nations. The U.S. Navy would be responsible for protecting them. It's a battle most people never see, but it determines everything. Cyber defense. The U.S. Cyber Command already blocks hundreds of thousands of foreign intrusion attempts daily. In WW3, this becomes a non-stop battlefield. A single cyber strike could shut Wall Street, disable air traffic control, alter water treatments, freeze hospital networks, manipulate GPS. That's why cyber defense might be more important than tanks or planes. Would American civilians be safe? Now the hardest question. Would ordinary Americans survive? Not everyone would face the same risk. High-risk zones. These areas contain major military, government, or industrial targets. Washington, D.C., New York, Los Angeles, San Diego, Seattle, Houston, Norfolk, Chicago. In a nuclear exchange, these could be targeted first. Medium-risk zones. Cities with tech centers, manufacturing hubs, or landmark structures. Denver, St. Louis, Atlanta, Phoenix, Miami. Low-risk zones. Rural states, small towns, agricultural regions. Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas, Oklahoma. These regions would become essential. Food production, fuel reserves, safe relocation centers, supply routes. Survival odds increase dramatically in these areas. Realistic survival tips. Modern WW3 scenario. These aren't prepper fantasies, just real practical steps experts recommend. Emergency essentials every American household should have. First aid supplies, flashlights plus batteries, portable chargers, 2 weeks of water, 4 weeks of food, a radio battery or hand crank, copies of documents, basic tools, cash ATMs may be down. B. Know your shelter options. If you live near military bases, major airports, large cities, industrial zones, your best move is mapping safe shelter areas, now, not later. C. Communication plan. When networks go down, pre-agreed meeting points, family phone lists written on paper, ham radio or basic walkie-talkies. D. Mental preparedness. Survival is 50% mental. Being calm, informed, and organized increases survival chances more than anything else. Can the United States as a nation times survive WW3? This is the final, most complex question. If WW3 is conventional, yes, without question. The U.S. military, economy, and geography give it a massive survival advantage. If WW3 is nuclear, the human cost would be unimaginable. Cities could be destroyed. Millions could be displaced. But the nation itself? Yes, it would likely survive damaged, grieving, but still standing. Few countries have. America's landmass, agricultural capacity, energy independence, nuclear deterrent, military structure, alliance network. These factors make total collapse extremely unlikely. If WW3 is hybrid, cyber plus space, plus economic plus limited military, this is the most probable scenario. And in this case, the US wouldn't just survive, it could emerge even stronger depending on how quickly it adapts. Survival isn't just physical, it's technological, economic, and psychological. And America's strength has always been its ability to rebuild. The final reality, survival isn't just national, it's personal. The truth is simple. The United States can survive World War III. But the bigger question is, would Americans themselves be prepared to endure it? A nation's survival doesn't depend only on weapons and governments. It depends on its people, on their resilience, unity, discipline, and willingness to adapt. When you strip away all the politics and military strategy, it comes down to this. Survival begins at home, with awareness, with preparation, with community, with calmness under pressure. And that, more than anything, will decide the future of the United States in a world facing its darkest moment.